There are countless number of people who enjoy the beauty that is good beer, and a lot of large companies who invest a lot of money in making beer better. But how can they go about making a better beer? I'm going to talk about one of the main ingredients, and the first to be added. I'm of course talking about a better barley for a better beer.
In order to understand the importance of barley, we first need to take a look at the basic brewing process. The process of brewing can be broken down into 4 steps: malting, mashing, boiling, and fermenting. We will focus on the first 2 steps because these are the important ones that involve barley: malting and mashing. Barley is a type of grain that is commonly used for making food products such as cereal and beer. During malting, barley is taken and allowed to germinate, or to start sprouting. They then stop the germination and the barley is dried in a kiln and sometimes roasted. Malting causes the barley to start to produce enzymes that will break down starches into sugars in the next step. It is important to note that enzymes are small molecules that will speed up a chemical reaction, such as turning starches into sugars. The next step, mashing, is done by adding hot water to the malted barley. This causes the enzymes produced in malting to break down the starches found in barley into sugars to produce a sugar-rich liquid. The sugary liquid is then filtered, boiled, and finally fermented. This will take the sugars from the broken down starches of the barley and turn them into alcohol, making beer. But what makes a good barley? A few factors that a good barley will have is that it germinates well, has good enzyme activity, low protein content, high starch content, and it will produce as much as possible when farmed. A study done in Madison, Wisconsin by Cynthia Henson focused on how to make enzymes with better activity. Remember that an enzyme is a molecule that will speed up a reaction. The study focused on a certain enzyme that converted starches into sugars called alpha-glucosidase. After heating this enzyme to temperatures needed for drying and roasting, the enzyme activity, or how well it could speed up the reaction, dropped to 5% of what it originally was. They compared these to similar enzymes found in sugar beets, and found that they were more able to take the heat. They were then able to create new enzymes for barley that were similar to those of sugar beets and therefore more stable after heating. This would increase the amount of sugars by 30% and therefore increase the amount of alcohol produced. They hope to be able to find natural strains of barley that would have these genes or introduce them into malting barley if possible. Another important aspect of a better barley is that farmers can produce a lot of it. A study done by Lavinius and Membry in Australia created 2 different strains of barley from the same parent in order to see what characteristic would make a greater yield. One strain had a high protein content and one had a low protein content. They then grew these 2 strains for 2 seasons in 2004 and 2005. It was believed that the low protein content would have a better yield. They then analyzed the barley looking at the grain yield in metric tons per hectare, protein content with near-infrared spectroscopy, the 1,000 grain weight by weighing out 100 randomly selected grains and multiplying it by 10, and the kernel plumpness by seeing what portion of a 100 gram sample couldn't pass through a 2.5 centimeter sieve. They found that the low protein did in fact have a higher yield, as well as a higher 1,000 grain weight and a higher kernel plumpness. Due to the fact that this was a comparative study, they did not list the exact values for these variables, so these graphs show approximations extracted from a figure in the study, but the results were found to be significant. Well, I hope you found this video interesting and you have a better understanding of the importance of barley in making a good beer. Thanks for listening, and stay thirsty, my friends.